Alright, so my last video was about the cheapest 400 horsepower American cars, but a few of you might have looked at that number and thought,
"This some sort of peasant joke that I'm too rich to understand."
So for everyone who needs more power than that, this week I've got the 6 cheapest 500 horsepower American cars. Let's get into it. Like my other video, these are no BS prices based on average, clean, acceptable mileage cars. Despite the title though, I do have to admit these aren't actually cheap.
FBI, open up!
Last time, a couple people pointed out even the 400 horsepower cars are a little expensive, and they're totally right, but these are just the cheapest cars. I want to keep everything realistic, you know? I even searched for videos, and this is one of the first ones that came up. Like, what even is that thumbnail? It's a 700 horsepower Hellcat with a crazy body kit and a weird attempt at like an intake snorkel or something. I can't believe they actually thought anyone would even click. Oh, wait. Alright, well, without further ado, number 1 is actually the Ram SRT10.
What in the goddamn?
I know you probably weren't expecting a truck on here, but I promise all the other cars are muscle cars. I talked a lot more about this one in my fastest American SUVs and trucks video. Check that one out after if you want to know more about it. For this video, I won't get too into it, but these had an 8.3 liter Viper V10 engine making 500 horsepower, and you can find them for sale between $20,000 and $30,000. Now moving on to our first muscle car, we've got the 07 to 09 Mustang GT500s. Granted, these might be a little older than what you'd want to own, but they were the second to last Mustang generation Carroll Shelby worked with, so they're definitely still iconic.
Let me guess. Your home?
It was. And it was beautiful. Titan was like most planets.
They had a supercharged 5.4 liter V8 making 500 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. The downside to these is they seem to cost between $33,000 and $40,000. As far as Mustang collectability and that food chain goes, I definitely think that's reasonable, so it's fair for the real Mustang fans. Compared to the other cars on the list though, I personally wouldn't spend that much to get one of these over one of the other options. Up next is the 09 to 14 Cadillac CTS-V, and if you saw my last video, you already know I'd say these are your best option if you want a mix of GM performance and class. I also mentioned that these are a little pricey, between $34,000 and $40,000, but for that price, you get a 6.2 liter LSA V8, which is based on the C6 ZR1 LS9 engine. They had 556 horsepower, hit 60 miles an hour in just 4.1 seconds, and most of them are 4-doors. That means if you ever wanted to bring your little money eaters, I mean kids, to the playground, you could keep the tires spinning the whole way there with them sitting in the back like, "We're all gonna die!" That, or you could do donuts or pulls in the parking lot in case one of them called your race car bed stupid earlier and you don't really feel like talking to them. The third to last car is the 2010 to 14 Mustang GT500s. These had 540 horses in 2010, 550 in 11 and 12, and after a certain GM car came out with 580 horsepower, they got a huge bump up to 662 horsepower.
You can't defeat me.
No, I know. But he can.
The 0 to 60s went from a 4.6 to 4.1, then down to a 3.7. The huge power change in 2013 came from swapping to a supercharged 5.8 liter V8 after having a 5.4 liter V8. Sadly, these seem like they're usually the most expensive car, sitting between 37 and 41 grand. But hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do when you want 660 horsepower.
I had to beat an old lady with a stick to get these.
Back to that certain GM car I mentioned, next up is the 2012 to 2015 Camaro ZL1, which made 580 horsepower and 556 pound-feet of torque from that LSA V8. The 6th gen ZL1s have to be my favorite Camaro, but I'd say the front end on these is the most evil looking out of any of them. That is, besides maybe the front end on that CCR wide body kit I talked about a couple months ago, that thing looks like a serial killer. Anyway, these cost about the same as the GT500s, but they do seem like they're a very little bit cheaper. The final cheapish American car with 500 horsepower is the 05 to 13 C6 Corvette Z06. 500 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque came out of a big boy 7-liter LS7 engine. They came in 6-speed manuals, only weigh a little under 3,200 pounds, and hit a 3.80 to 60. For everyone who knows that dude in blue on YouTube, he talked a good amount in a review of one of these about how performance to cost-wise, they're one of the best deals out there. They're fairly easy to find for sale between $30,000 and $39,000, but while I was looking, I got the shit scared out of me when I saw this. This isn't a Z06, it's a base LS3 that they put a supercharger on, but those looks, I don't know why you would do that. Even the way they did the back, with just the 2 brake lights, it almost looks like that super jacked fish from SpongeBob. I don't know, I needed to talk about this. Let me know if it's just me. I don't think this looks even half as good as the stock C6. Honorable mentions are the 6.4-liter Scat Pack Chargers and Challengers that made between 470 and 485 horsepower because they're so close to the number. I've also got the 03 to 06 Dodge Vipers that do have 500, but they cost between 40 and 50K. I wanted to keep the list under 40K because even though I put cheapest in the title instead of cheap, that's just a little too far. Drop in the comments which of these is your favorite and what your thoughts were on the Callaway Corvette. For anyone who's new to the channel, I upload American car news and content like this every week. If you have any questions or there's something you'd like to see, leave a comment or shoot me a DM on Instagram and I'll make sure to get back to you. As always, I really appreciate all you guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next week. Have a great day.